it's just a technology, you know. That I just like to show you the that one is organic food from China, right? In Canadian table, but are they still organic? No, because the many fuel burn when they transport it from China to Canada 10 kilometers down. So it's really organic. We need to decrease the distance between the producer and the consumer. And the daughter Shi do the very good, has done a very good case in Beijing. So I don't like to say that. You can see we can return to the organic farm. My students just didn't use any fertilizer, any pesticide. You didn't find any pest on this potato field. We can return to the organic, right? We can return to the organic. This time we need to rethink what function of the economic. Yeah. So it's not my creation. I created that. It's an article, published in the Science America in 2008. So with the picture, cover picture on that. So they lost the clothing. Did they get back their clothes now? Okay, they didn't. They never. Maybe never. Let's rethink the WTO now for agriculture. In terms of agriculture, I don't know other field. Okay, thank you. Let's just rethink the WTO now for the every country, right? Africa, why Africa now Africa? So maybe we can think about that. Okay, thank you.
That's the emperor, ending it with the emperor having no clothes anymore. So let's just, before we engage in discussions, probably some minutes more left. And I think we are basically on time, given some delays in the beginning. But just give a big round of applause for all of this. Okay, so now it's quite a bundle of ideas there to chew on. But some challenges have been presented from the beginning to the last one. So maybe here from the floor is now open for questions, discussions, sharing, whatever.
Just ask a clarification. What's the difference between self-employed and entrepreneur?
就是自雇跟那个企业这样分别是这样。
Please use
just the
the gray.
Because we use a data set, so we give an working criteria. Let's say it's 8 employee, 8 staff. If we,
8 staff, and you have it.
Yeah, if we below the 8 employees, so you can self-employed.
So that's a technical definition. Please identify yourself and so everyone knows.
Chen from the University, from the Department of Cultural Studies. Yeah, I have actually questions for Cristina about Bolivia, the case, because just now you talk about the chart with the community of human beings, community of nature, and community of artists, and something, because it's too fast. And I don't quite understand the third one, community of apes and whatever. Yeah, and
the gods of Olympus.
Yeah, and also want to maybe explain with the details, the relationship. How do you understand the relationships of these 3 communities? Yeah, because I think it's very interesting. Yeah, and also I didn't understand the concept of Minka the meaning of wisdoms and more. Yeah, this I really, can you explain a bit more because of the yeah, you can understand what is that. Yeah.
When we talk about the Minca and the communities of Bolivia and Peru, it's that you don't work by yourself. As a family, you're not all alone, but it's a community means several families that work together. So if I'm doing something, the rest will come and help me to do something. And the same, I have to go and share with the other ones to do something. And about the 3 parts is because it's important in nature because it's the base where we are standing. If we, like he said, soil, but in our case, it's the Mother Earth who gives you the light. And so we have to think of, as persons, what do we do for this Mother Earth? But then we also have to think in things like our spirituality around the things we do. There's the belief that everything grows if people have the energy, the positive energy to do it too. So this is why it has to be all the time. When we conceive the community, it's all the time, it's all together. If you do it by yourself, it doesn't have the value. You do it all together. And this is the way it's made, not only for the production, but also in the way of the governance we are taking along. Because everybody has the responsibility of everything. We don't have only one person who takes the power and is going to be the one who is going to take the decisions. It's all of them. And you go in a circle, like I have the responsibility today. Tomorrow you will have it, and the other person, and the other person. Because everybody has to participate in the way we grow up all together, and the way we preserve nature, and the way we share together all the things we have in the community and in the rest of the places where we are sharing with others. And this is what happens around the lake. People got together to say, we are here, we have problems with nature, because now you can see the lakes contaminated, that we have lost several crops that we used to have. And they are trying to get this back together by getting together, by being together and by working together. And this is the way it works. Have I answered your question?
Actually, it's a very interesting case because we have also I'm working actually with the Peace Woman project, which I'll present tomorrow. Yeah, and then one of our study cases is actually in Yunnan, where actually Loyan is also a team of us working together with the indigenous people there. So it's actually quite similar. Yeah, and then the Minca's wisdom, you actually work together when you have your harvest, your family, and other people come and help you, and then you go to your family to help you when you do your harvesting. Yeah, and then also there's a very interrelations between the 3 circles. Yeah, if I understand correctly, the emphasis is more the more spirituality part, right? Nature and spiritual, and then human beings. So it's all 3 very integrated. But now, because of the development, yeah, and also the mainstream ideology, yeah, the government is also trying to develop that area, yeah, which is very beautiful. Yeah, and also the people also trying to go out to get jobs, and then now all the traditions now is sort of dismantled in a way that they really just think of their own household, all their own things. So I think it's quite similar. Yeah, and then this kind of indigenous culture is I think it's very important for us to reflect upon our development strategies that we see in the Vatican. Thank you very much for sharing.
This is some universal in Terre.
Yeah, just to make a comment here. You ask about what Apus and Chichilas meant. Yeah, and those are the protecting mountains.
Oh, the
Basically, yes, yes. In the Andes, mountains are deities.
Yeah. It's the same in China, in that area. They have a protected forest.
Yeah.
Kind of collective.
And when Cristina was talking about the IU, this IU is extended family, but it not only includes the humans, but the extended family includes also natural entities, and the protecting deities. Please introduce yourself.
想问一下，就是在菲律宾和那个柬埔寨的这种民众参与式发展过程当中，这种参与式是政府为主导的参与式，还是民众 NGO 为主导的参与式？另外就是除了 NGO 以外，工人、农民他们以什么样的途径、以什么样的方式去参与
？I would like to ask the participatory development, is this dominated by the government? Is it promoted by the government or by the NGO? And another question is, apart from these NGOs, how about the workers, how the persons, how they take part into this participatory initiatives? So it's two questions.
If you talk about Cambodia,
yes, 就是柬埔寨和菲律宾 both in Cambodia and in the Philippines.
Okay, so if you talk about Cambodia and the Philippines, there is what we call an invited space. Invited space is an institutionalized space created by the Decentralization law, where citizens, ordinary citizens, NGOs, and different groups can participate in development planning. But there is also what we call a claimed space. These are spaces created by NGOs or social movements, the workers and the peasants. Okay? They create their own space and demand for their rights. Okay? So what I discussed earlier is the invited space, the institutionalized space, the participatory space created by the Decentralization law. Okay? These are promoted initially by NGOs and progressive groups, but incorporated in the law itself. So now it's a space where citizens, NGOs, and other civil society groups, even social movements, engage with the government. So it's a space for the government and for civil society to engage with. So if you ask me who dominates, yeah, so if you ask me who dominates in these institutionalized spaces, the answer is who has the greatest power, who has the political power in these spaces. So in most instances, in the case of Cambodia especially, of course it's the government, it's the political party. In some other cases, it would be the local elites who have turned into politicians. But there are also cases in the Philippines where you have what we call...
It's okay, it's okay.
There are cases in the Philippines where you have what we call a reform-minded government officials who work with civil society and whose perspective are for the poor. But, you know, so in that case, the balance of power between the politicians and the civil society and other social movements would be some sort of like 60-40 or 70-30. It's still in favor of the state.
Thank you. Thank you. So, if that space is somewhat narrow and easy to fill it,
Yeah.
You can fit it in with the wife of the governor or the mayor. Anyway, so
in both the Bolivian example and the conversation about Peru, there was always some discussion about people's spiritual relationship to the land. When we went on our tour, the people's relationship was only to production, but we did not get a sense of a traditional or ancient or current spirituality and land relationship. Could somebody speak a little bit about that, you know, in the Chinese context?
So there's the question for our China participants about relationship to the land, which Jorge knows a lot about. Can you give us a discourse on that? But the last presentation of Dr. Wang would probably fit into that very well, especially when you discuss the meaning of ecology.
I mean, I just theoretical thinking. So I didn't expect your question to me, but I can say some words. The land, the property or tenure, it should be a program for China now. If we, because in the Western economic field, the land is a factor for production, just a factor for production. But in China, the land is both the factor for production, also a safety guard, warranty to the rural people's life. So we have been distorted land, caricatures of the land in the modern economic theory. So if you move that the theory to China, you will wow, it is effective in the rural area. It's okay in the urban area, but it's effective in the rural area. So the daughter Ling Yi, you know, the director, former director of the Economic Research Center in the Peking University, she came to a conclusion. I'm not pronouncing clearly, female or male, I can't. But she came to a conclusion it's effective when you use the land. So if we need to reform that. But if you reform that, the state ownership will be loose. Maybe we can have the program in the developing country, just like the Professor Wen Tiejing worried about. So that we now just in the conflict, in my opinion. I'm just agricultural science. I have base, you know. So I may answer you properly. Or the Chen can find detail.
Maybe I just talk a bit about my understanding, of both the Han and also all the indigenous, that is the Aini indigenous people that I mentioned from Yunnan just now. I thought that, so like my mom grew up in the rural village, and then they have worshipped the god of land. Yeah, so actually peasants or people living in the village, that kind of spirituality, maybe it's not really a god or something like the god in the Christian sense, but it's really a very neighborhood. It's like a neighborhood. You have a very close relationship. You have to really worship the god of the land, and then every day actually putting incense and that. Even when we moved to Hong Kong, very urban area, so we still have that. I don't know what's it called. Something that she would pray to the god of land every day. And so I think that kind of spirituality between the sort of human people and the land can be sort of manifested in this way, a very local way. Yeah, and as for the Aini indigenous people, they are like the so-called the protected forest. Yeah, that is the forest where they actually it is sacred. Yeah, because they think if they want to, that is because it's collective. If they want, they only can cut the trees when they have to build a house, and they have to get consent of the community. So you cannot just go and cut the tree to make for your And because it's sacred, so and it's sacred in the sense, I don't know, maybe lawyer can supplement my understanding. So it's also not really a god that you call maybe they have the god of mountains, I don't know. But this kind of respect for the nature, can sort of generate a sense of spirituality with the nature there that you have to respect because it's all for your livelihood, for your next generations. So and they that's why they really protect it. In this sense. In China, I think in many indigenous places, this kind of traditions and it still kept in certain extent, but now, as I said just now, because of the development, so it's getting less and less. I don't know, maybe people here would know something about this kind of.
I think Mayling will have something, but I just wish we should include the waters.
Just a follow-up question. On nature and the relation between nature and people, are the gods, if you can call them that, specific to an area, or what? Because we were told that people, that land here is state-owned, so people have there's no right of ownership. So neither is the forest owned by a community, but it's by the state. Okay. So is the god specific to an area? What if they get moved somewhere else, like in the Reconstruction area? Do they lose their god of the land? Or what is it?
As far as I understand, maybe it's not that geographic. So I think it's across general
God of the land in general.
God of the mountains of
because in Southeast Asia there are two gods. There's a geographically bound god, and we have this general. So that's why maybe that's I mean this concept of spiritual power emanating from everywhere, from the land, the waters, the seas, even people. It's also very true in Southeast Asia. It's a culture of the spiritual power emanating from everywhere. Call it Norway's white blood, but this is spiritual power.
We were given up to 5:45 by Carol, so we have time enough for a few more questions, probably two. Please. Our young participant here, this is the
我们中国传统的农村，这种村社，它虽然是地主跟佃农的结构，土地是私有，但是其中公田的比例非常大。它这个公田，有很大一部分作用是，公田上的产出会支持我们的宗族，因为中国的那种传统里面对家族宗族特别重视。那么宗族的文化活动，包括拜祖、祭祀，还有农村里面很大的集会，这样呢能够反映我们传统文化的活动，很大程度上是由公田的产出来做的。特别像北方的话，到目前农村，我们的农民还会把他的比如说祖先的骨灰会埋葬在他的田间地头里面，还有一定程度上保留着他们土地跟他们这种祖宗文化的关系。
So in China, we have two different forms of land. Of course, we have the so-called tenancy, the tenant prisons, but we also have a very important part of land called the public arable land, the public land. So most of the rituals, worshipping our ancestor, to worship our that night, most of the cultural activities are supported by the gains or by the production from the public arable land. So that part of the land, the community-owned arable land, become a very important source of to support our cultural, especially the ancestor worshipping. In rural China, we still have this tradition of burying our ancestor ash, ancestor bone, ash and bone, beside our arable land. So it's just a way to honor our ancestor, to make sure to tell that our connection between our bloodline and the nature and all this thing. So this is a very important aspect in traditional Chinese prison society. One more.
但是这个现在它发生了很大的变化。这个变化主要是我们国家从新建国之后，有一个农村土地的合作化和集体化的运动。这个集体化运动，因为帮助像温铁军教授所说，它帮助中国完成了一个工业化的原始积累。但是在7、8年改革开放重新又分配土地之后，虽然农村又重回到一种小农村社的这样的状态，但是它当时所保留，一般每个村会保留5%这么一个比例啊，各个地方不一样。这个土地它也是作为集体的土地，那这个土地的它的产出以及它可以作为维护村里的五保户啊，一些需要帮助的老人会给他们做一些支持的。但是因为最近这些年，农村的一些市场化的这种趋势和变化，很多地方这种农村集体土地也都要么卖掉了，被承包掉收不回来了，总之已经都消失殆尽了。所以我想说，我们农村的很多这种传统的文化，可能跟这种土地制度的变化，很难再恢复过来。可以。
But there is a threat for a great change, for a great transformation is undergoing that will threaten our traditional value. After the 1949, there was the land reform in China, in which land were distributed among the prisons. But then, we go through a process of collectivization. So, as Professor Wen Te-jin has presented in the early session, this collectivization, especially through the formation of the so-called people's commune, helps a lot for the completion of the industrialization in China, which built the basis of industrialization in China. But after 1978, the so-called reform policy, then the land were once again redistributed among the person community. But a small part of the land were reserved as the public land, just like what we're talking about, the public arable land. So the public land, in the past, it was used as providing source of income to support their connected cultural lives, like worship and festival, like ancestor worshipping. But in the contemporary China, that public land usually was used as some connective common goods to provide some social welfare, social provisions, basic social provisions, like taking care of the widow or the children and all, to fulfill that social provisions, social welfare functions. But in recent years, we have a great risk now undergoing. This is a trend of the marketization and privatization. Many of this public land has been marketized or privatized in order to gain cash income for the land community. So now, because of this change in the land ownership system, now one very important traditional agricultural culture and value in China are now, under the threat of disappearing. So.
Thanks for that sharing. And now for the last question.
最后一个问题。
谢谢给我这么一个机会。我来自福建，很遗憾我不会讲英语。是这样，我有个问题，就是中国是土地公有制的这么一个国家，这个给世人这么一个印象，似乎公有制国家是土地公有制呢是导致权力寻租的一个重要的问题。这也是导致了我们国内的这个贫富恶霸这么一个宿命。但是我们发现，美国其实虽然是土地私有制，但是它似乎也躲不开这个宿命。从世界这个国家来讲呢，也是这么一个宿命。20%的是富强的国家，80%的还是非常贫困落后。我想请教各位在座的这个教授，谁有这种办法可以破解这种格局？谢谢。
Well, I don't think we have time yet. But anyway, I'll try. I'm from Fujian. In people's perception, conception, well, China's poverty, China, the disparity of the wealth disparity of, we all know the 20 and 80% wealth disparity was due to our collective land ownership system, which need to centralization. But actually, when you look at the United States, it's the same thing. Even their land are privatized, but still in the United States, you can see somehow the 28 and 80% wealth disparity. And at the global level, the same ratio or the same wealth disparity of 20-80% will still prevails on the world. So I would like to ask you, the respectable professor and scholars, could you give us a solution to convert this, distribution, this disparity, 20-80 disparity? I think it's a big question, too big to answer here.
Maybe that can be answered after the whole forum.
我们这个论坛明天后天，因为这个很大的一个问题，明天后天才能回答。
Let us not dare answer I think to close, everyone will agree with me that we had a nice discussion. And so let us give, to close it, just give us a
So now we can all have your thing because tonight we have a public forum. It's also holding the MBG 06, is the big hall. So after the dinner, we have a public forum start at 6:30. So now we can... 7. In MBG 06. So now we can go to have a dinner. It's the same restaurant as the lunch. So you can go together and have a dinner first. Okay, thank you for everybody.
Remember you'll be back. Okay. Thank you. We'll see you in the restaurant. Thank you.
就在这儿是吧？哎，明天有你的演讲啊，明天有你的演讲，所以我就跟大家讨论几个话题。Thank you. Thank you.